Okay, YouTube, we got a different kind of video today. We got the review of the new Schwalbe Albert Gravity Pro Ultra Soft on the front, soft on the rear on my 2022 Giant Trance Advanced Carbon, whatever. So I wanted to give a real review because I was very skeptic, and I'm not the kind of guy that likes buying stuff that doesn't work, but I have terrible front traction on this bike when I'm really getting it, and I always ran Schwalbes. This bike came with Maxxis, and about 20 miles into it on my second ride, I got a pinch flat in the rear. So I said, to hell with Maxxis. We're going what I had on my other e-bike, which was a Schwalbe Eddy Current in the rear and front. I actually ran a Magic Mary on my other one. It was a 27.5. And I ran a 2.6, I think maybe it was a 2.8 on my other e-bike because I have a motorcycle background, so I like a wider tire. But we'll get to the wider tire because that's my only complaint, and I will show you. But this was my first ride. Just mounted them last night, got sealant in them. Normally I would run 19 in the front and 21 in the rear when I would ride. I'm out in Lake Havasu, a lot of hard pack, dusty, but very rocky, sharp rocks that like to bang rims and just destroy stuff. So I ran these guys, the new ones. They say on their site and all the videos that you can air up and still get the same traction, and they weren't lying. I aired both of them up 2 PSI compared to what I normally run, and from the first corner that I took these things out, it was night and day. But I do have to say that the Albert is a completely different tread pattern than the Eddy Current that I had. The Eddy Current is a lot more blocky. I did have a soft Eddy Current. I didn't run an ultra soft in the front, so it's kind of almost comparing apples, maybe two different types of apples, not so much apples and oranges because they're both Schwalbe. So, but super impressed with these tires. So if you have, they're expensive. They're 108 bucks a piece. Right now, they just came out, and I know they only have in the Gravity casing, they have a 2.6 and a 29 2.6. In the Trail casing, which is a lighter casing from what I understand, they offer a 2.5. So my only complaint with Schwalbe, and this was the issue with the Magic Mary when I went from a 27.5 to a 29, their 27.5s run wide, which was awesome. I loved having a wider front tire. It felt great. It's just more confidence for me. I'm 5'11", 180 pounds. It just felt more planted, stable, better for my riding here. We race out in Phoenix, and it felt like the right tire for me. Some guys like them narrow, some guys like them wide. I don't know. I just like it to be true to whatever the size on the side tells you it's going to be. Otherwise, I would have got a 2.5 if I wanted narrower. So this is kind of where my gripe comes in. So previously on this bike, when I first got it, when I switched from Maxxis, I had Eddy Current rear 2.6, Magic Mary Schwalbe on the front 2.6, and when I measured the Eddy Current, it was consistent with the 2.6. It was 2.58, close enough. I'll let that one slide. The front Magic Mary was a 2.42, which is hugely undersized for the stated 2.6. I got with Schwalbe, kind of explained to him like, hey, not real happy with it. It just doesn't feel right on the front of the bike, especially having a wider rear. They gave me a credit for another tire, which was cool. I ended up going Eddy Current front, Eddy Current rear, 2.6s. It was consistent. I was pretty stoked. Never really got the traction out of the front end that I wanted with the Eddy Current just because it's so blocky. So watching videos on these, very confusing. Like if you've seen the casings, Schwalbe does not do a good job of saying, hey, this is good for this. Like they're so confusing with the casings and the gravity and the super gravity and the super trail. Like they need to figure that out because it's way overcomplicated. And the new radials are not consistent. Like with the old ones that were gravity and trail, they're different on that aspect as well. So now not only was the first round confusing, now you're mixing a radial tire with the same name, like it just, nothing makes sense. So I ended up going with the thicker casing. I ride hard, I go as fast as I can, I hit stuff I probably shouldn't. This bike has 3,200 miles on it. They're hard miles out here in Arizona. And I never once had a flat on those Eddy Currents or any Schwalbe tire. The only one was the initial Maxxis that came on this bike. 20 miles into the ride, that's when I got a flat. So this tire for the last year, 3,200 miles, I've been always having front end issues. Just, it could be suspension tuning, could be pressures. I just was never really confident in the traction in the front end. So I was searching for that tire, not wanting to go to a Maxxis or Continental or something like that. And when I heard that they came out with this, whatever it's called, the radial style setup, I was skeptic. Like, it just seemed kind of scammy, but man, it's not. So this thing, if you have a chance, if you've got $108, just buy a front. Like, to hell with the rear. Like, e-bikes don't, it doesn't matter. You can throw anything on the back of this thing with a thick enough casing and just blast the trails. The front traction on this thing is unbelievable. I just did a watershed race loop out in Lake Havasu, and it was the fastest lap I've ever done, which is awesome because it was the confidence that the front end wasn't going to push out on me. The tires do roll slower. I mean, keep in mind my other ones probably had, I don't know, 500 or 600 miles on them at that point, so there was a lot less tread. They just rolled faster. Any new tires like these ones do, they roll slow. The ultra soft compound, I foresee that I am not going to get a lot of miles. This was one ride, and I'm already seeing like a little bit of wear. So I'll bet I don't get 500 miles out of these tires. But the confidence that it gives me on these rides now to go fast in corners, like, I'll spend $108 every 6 months if I have to. I don't even care. So here's where my gripe comes in. So Schwalbe with the Magic Mary gave me credit for that 2.6 Magic Mary that measured out to barely 2.4. And they said, hey, run it for a while. It'll widen out. Everything's got to adjust, this and that. It never really did. It maybe widened out a little bit, but not to where the rear wasn't wider than the front, which was awkward. I didn't like the way it rode. Got the credit, went to the Eddy Current front. So got these in a 2.6. You can see they're a 29 2.6. They've got a ride on them. I aired them up. They seated everything. You could hear them popping, and like when you pushed on the treads, you could hear like the casings breaking in and stuff. And I rode it pretty hard today. And right now this is probably at 19 PSI, I would imagine, right in there. So I haven't checked it since after my ride, but you would expect a 2.6 to be somewhere remotely close to 2.6. So let's see what we measure out to on the widest portion of this. Let's go. Here we go. We are at the widest portion of this tire, and you can see it's not like it's tight on. Well, here we'll give them a little grace here. There's a little bit of play. We're at a 2.4. Really, like, that's the widest portion of the tire. We're at a 2.41, maybe a 2.42, and that's super discouraging because I really wanted a wide tire. And you can't get any wider than a 2.6 from Schwalbe. That's what they offer. They don't offer a 2.8 because I imagine a 2.8 would probably be a 2.6, which they claim. So that's my only gripe on this tire. But you know what? With that being said, the extra traction that I have now with this smaller 2.6 that measures 2.42, but with the traction, I almost think, I don't have enough rides in it to say, but I almost think I'm going to be faster with this narrower, grippier tire just because of the pattern, or not the pattern, but the profile of it is narrower, so obviously it's going to be a faster tire. Time will tell. So far, super impressed. If you're looking into these tires, I don't know which one's right for you. This is an e-bike. It weighs a lot. It's carbon. The full thing's carbon. That doesn't mean anything. I mean, e-bike's an e-bike. So I opted for the heavier casing, just extra insurance. I ride a lot. I don't like walking. So I went with the thicker casing, ultra soft front, soft rear. I imagine I'll be buying front tires every couple months. I don't know, cheap insurance is cheaper than medical bills when your front end washes out. So that is my honest review of these Schwalbe Albert radial tires. They are a bitchin' tire. They roll true. They don't have wobbles in them like some other tires that my kids have raced on, had just terrible casing issues, sent those back. So not a fan of Maxxis, not a fan of Versas, just not a fan of Continental. I've ran a lot of them. We've ran a lot of them. Schwalbe seems to just make a very, very solid tire if you're not concerned about weight. These things do come in heavy, so keep that in mind. E-bike, I don't care if you're on a static bike, acoustic bike, whatever you call it, regular pedal bike, non-cheater bike for all you guys that hate the e-bikes, and you're chasing weight, not the tire for you. So I don't know what else to say. Keep running your smoothies out there. But yep, that's my honest review of these Schwalbe Albert Gravities. I guess they do have other ones coming out. I heard they had a Magic Mary coming out here in a few months in the radial. Night and day difference. The traction on these things, unbelievable. So hopefully they stick together. I imagine I'll start getting chunking and a lot of wear, but that's my review. Go buy a set if you can find them. I had to get these shipped from Washington State to Arizona because everybody's out of stock right now. So have fun biking. Catch you later.